What's going on, guys? Marco here with Dynasty Nerds, and I am bringing you some wide receiver sleepers. All right, guys, so before I even jump into the sleepers, I want you to go check what the current price is on the Keenan Allen and Mike Evans owners in your league. See what you can go give up for these guys, because right now they're being tremendously undervalued. I think they're both wide receiver 1 candidates. I think Mike Evans is my wide receiver 5 on the season for 2022. And they're not being treated that way. So if they're not on a team that is a legit contender this season, go after them. In a dynasty startup, both of those guys, I'm okay taking a round higher than their current ADP, because that's what they can bring to your team this year. Mike Evans, maybe even a little bit beyond. Keenan Allen, we'll see, but so far he hasn't slowed down yet. Let's jump right into the sleepers now. The first one I've got for you is Houston Texans wide receiver Nico Collins. Now, Nico Collins is huge. He's 6'4", he's 215. He is a physical player. He's aggressive at the catch point. He's a good route runner. He has a solid release package, especially for a player of his size. There's really not a lot of things that he does poorly. Ultimately, he's going to have to figure out some of the finer tuning or finer points of being a wide receiver, but that comes with a lot of young wide receivers, especially ones that aren't coming out with, Jamar Chase prospect profile. And I think that's kind of where Nico Collins lands. There's a couple things that are helping him in 2022 and even beyond. So here's what I like about Nico Collins for 2022. He's got a quarterback in Davis Mills who is severely underrated. He reminds me a lot of Kirk Cousins, and I know we've said that about a lot of different players during the off seasons, but really, I think that this is probably the next Kirk Cousins in Davis Mills. And Davis Mills taking another step this season helps him. Obviously, he's got a guy in Brandon Cooks who's going to take the top off of defenses, who's going to take the top defender away from Nico Collins. He's going to skew the defense towards him, away from Nico Collins. And the very good wide receiver prospect that they drafted in John Mechie is recovering from a torn ACL. He's not going to be on the field early. He's not going to be 100% for a long time, maybe mid-season or beyond. And those are all things that I think really help Nico Collins for really his whole career, but especially for 2022. It's going to give him volume. It's going to give him plenty of opportunity. And that's why I think he is a really good option here as a sleeper to pass 1,000 receiving yards on the season. He is going to be the number 2 wide receiver on this team that has almost no real shot of stopping too many good or above average defenses. The bad ones, sure. I mean, they added pieces this offseason, but nothing that's going to say, okay, great, they can run the ball a lot. So they're going to be throwing quite a bit. And if you look at Nico Collins' last 5 games where he really started to get involved, he was averaging 6.1 targets a game. If you put that over an entire season, that's eclipsing 100 targets on the season. I like Nico Collins as a sleeper for 2022. All right, the next guy is getting a lot of hype lately, but I mean, he's on a prolific offense led by Justin Herbert. It's Josh Palmer. A lot of offenses are switching to the 11 personnel, which means that Josh Palmer, who has been practicing with the starters so far, looks like he is going to be on the field often. And as a starter, Josh Palmer averaged 15.8 fantasy points per game. And now it doesn't mean he's going to give you that week in and week out, but he has that kind of potential. He's only 22 years old. He's 6'1", 210 pounds, so he's not some scrawny burner. He's a very good route runner. I think he could be a secret kind of under the radar target hog for this team. And if Keenan Allen or Mike Williams were to lose any time, I think he's right in that wide receiver 2 conversation. Kind of similar to Nico Collins. To end the season last year, Josh Palmer was he was averaging 5.6 targets a game, which would have come out to around 96 targets on the season. If he gets more opportunity, more starting opportunity, more time on the field, he could surpass 100 targets. And he is a guy, like I said, if either of the two guys ahead of him miss any time, I love what Josh Palmer can do in this Chargers offense with Justin Herbert. I think the one thing you just keep in mind with Josh Palmer is he's probably not as affordable as the Nico Collins because of the hype he has been getting. So really the things when I look at like draft picks, because I'm someone who's okay moving draft picks if I'm trying to fight for a win either this season or next season especially. So I saw him go recently in a league, if you're looking at draft picks alone, for a 2023 second and a 2024 second. And I know a lot of people on this channel, they're like, you don't care about second round picks. And the truth is I really don't. If I'm a contending team or if I'm in the top 4 or 5 teams in my league, you know what I really don't care about is a second round pick, especially if I'm going to get a player like Josh Palmer who has tremendous upside and he's still very young, so he's not going to just disappear after this season. So I like those two guys quite a bit. We got 2 more for you, but before we do, I want to remind you that Dynasty Nerds and Prize Picks have partnered up to help you win some cash. So go ahead, sign up for Prize Picks using the promo code NERDS, get a little discount, get a little money back. It's going to be awesome for you, and it'll help Dynasty Nerds out, which is always good because then we can keep bringing you phenomenal content like this. The last 2 guys I got to talk about, JUJU Smith-Schuster. And I know there's already people who are like, okay, we've already had enough of JUJU Smith-Schuster. And I get it. I hear you. His name has kind of lost its shine, right? Over the last 2 seasons especially. But here's the deal. At least for the first half of the season, he is the most likely option to lead the wide receivers or lead this team in targets of the wide receiver group. Obviously, Travis Kelce is really the wide receiver one, but if you look for the next guy for that least, at the very least, the first half of the season, it's going to be JUJU Smith-Schuster. They added MVS, who cannot catch footballs, so it doesn't really matter how big and fast and exciting he is as a physical prospect. If he can't catch the ball, it doesn't really matter. JUJU Smith-Schuster is really good at catching the football. They added Sky Moore, who I think is going to be a very good player. I think he's probably going to get, I think I have him projected around 80, 85 catches on the season, but that might be more of a second half of the season emergence for him. I think he's already dealing with a little bit of a hamstring injury. I'm not overly worried about it, but Juju's the guy who is going to get you wins early and often. He can be a flex play. He can be a wide receiver 3 with upside. He might even flirt with wide receiver 2 numbers depending on what he looks like early season, if he's healthy, if he has that chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. But he is the most proven option of this wide receiver room, and I like him as a sleeper right now, especially at his startup price, especially at the price you can probably get him in a trade. All right, the last one is another guy I've talked about before. It's a rookie, George Pickens. I'll break it down really quick so we can wrap this up. George Pickens, I had him comped to AJ Green in the offseason. He was my player comp for George Pickens. As a pure talent, George Pickens is probably number 2, number 3, at worst number 4 wide receiver in the class that we just saw. The reason he plummeted in the NFL draft, the reason teams were out on him, was his off the field issues, his attitude concerns, his character concerns. And hear me out, those are valid and those will keep a player off the field. I mean, the Steelers dealt with Martavis Bryant, so they understand. But I think what you need to think or realize is that George Pickens is probably one of the few teams that I think can take a wide receiver of his talent and his other things and get him on the right track. The Steelers, Mike Tomlin, they know how to develop wide receivers. They know how to keep guys on the field for the most part. Look what they did with Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, and look what they did when they left, And so I think really George Pickens is a guy, I believe in his talent. I think his talent will shine through. If he can put that off the field stuff on the side and focus on being a professional at the NFL level, George Pickens is going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Pittsburgh Steelers for 2022. And if Deontay Johnson leaves in free agency, which he might, because the rumors are that the Steelers do not want to pay him the money he's asking for, I think that George Pickens is going to be the wide receiver 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2023. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts below. Hit me up on Twitter at Marco_14P. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're close to 10,000 subscribers if we haven't already passed it, and we want to thank you guys for getting us there. And if you want to subscribe to the Nerd Herd, get an extra podcast episode, get rankings, get specific rankings. You get my rankings, you get all the crew's rankings, you get the GM tool. Use the link below in the description. You help me out, and you get a little discount on the GM tool and the Nerd Herd. So hit me up on Twitter if you got questions. Drop them below. I'll get to everything and anything I can. Thanks for hanging out. Be kind, do good. Peace.